As of early 2026, the human population sits above 8.2 billion, and the effort to translate the Bible for all of them is moving at a blistering pace. Right now, a new translation project begins in a new language roughly every 14 hours. Because of that momentum, an estimated 99% of the global population currently has access to at least some portion of Scripture. When you consider that for centuries these texts were copied out painstakingly by hand, reaching that 99% mark is a massive logistical achievement. But measuring success by total population hides a critical blind spot. To see the scale of the remaining work, we have to stop counting people and start counting languages. Currently, there are 7,397 recognized languages on Earth. When you break the data down by those native languages, the statistical reality changes. Roughly 1.5 to 1.6 billion people, about 1 in 5 people alive today, still do not have a complete Bible. The 99% figure looks great on paper, but it includes millions of people who only have access to a few isolated verses or short stories. Without the complete text, a fifth of humanity remains cut off from the foundational document. We can visualize this remaining gap by looking at this chart called the funnel of access. It sorts all 7,397 global languages into 4 distinct tiers based on exactly how much translation has actually been completed. The top tier holds the full Bible. Only 781 languages have reached this level. Because these are the world's most widely spoken languages, like Mandarin, English, and Spanish, this narrow band covers 6.7 billion people. The second tier down contains languages that only have a complete New Testament. Notice the divergence here. The number of distinct languages jumps to 1,804, but the total population drops to 933 million. Dropping to the third tier, the translation output thins. There are 1,473 languages, spoken by nearly 500 million people, that only have access to fragmented portions or stories. And then we hit the hard floor. The fourth tier contains exactly 3,268 languages that currently have 0 translated scripture. This block affects up to 150 million people. Within that bottom tier lies a deep backlog. Of those 3,268 languages, approximately 1,646 have no translation work currently in progress at all. The modern translation effort has finally hit a structural wall, leaving thousands of distinct linguistic groups completely outside the process. Why are these specific 3,268 languages bypassed by modern translation efforts? The first barrier is geography. The vast majority of these remaining languages are concentrated in the 1040 window, a rectangular geographic stretch across North Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. These isolated groups are often located deep within closed or restricted borders. Because of those restrictions, simply deploying a traditional missionary with a notepad, a strategy used in the 19th and 20th centuries, is no longer a viable option. You can't just walk across these borders. The physical isolation is compounded by a financial bottleneck known as the Great Imbalance. Globally, there are 2.4 billion unreached people, yet the resources allocated to reach them are scarce. This chart shows the breakdown of global mission spending. While 33% of the world is unreached, 99% of all foreign mission funding is spent elsewhere. Only 1%, about $450 million, is directed toward these unengaged groups. These last languages aren't waiting because the linguistic work is too difficult. They are waiting because the global mission network starves them of capital and operational priority. There is an active push to break this bottleneck. Vision 2025 has identified a priority list of 514 vital, sustainable languages that are waiting for work to begin. Reaching these groups requires a different personnel strategy. The immediate shortage isn't in field translators. The real deficit is in people known as mobilizers. A mobilizer's job is structural. They act as the bridge required to redirect funding, resources, and awareness from highly resourced areas and push it toward these isolated linguistic groups. We are still launching a new translation project every 14 hours. But because of the geographic and financial barriers, completing the final 1,646 languages on the waiting list will be the hardest and most expensive translation work in human history. Translating the Bible for the whole world depends on dismantling and rebuilding the economic infrastructure of modern global missions.